Okay, hey, welcome to another episode of On Point EDC. Today we have a very cool update for you from the brand RealSteel. A little bit about them. They were founded back in 2013 out of China. And their market segment is really high value knives, from entry level to really some pretty high end stuff that they've done. Now, this particular type of knife I'd consider an EDC folding utility knife. Some key common characteristics and design, which when you're looking for something that you could really carry every day. Of course, you're going to want that pocketable size as well as a very versatile blade. Now, this might look very familiar because I have featured a similar knife on the channel, and that knife has tons of different iterations. But this is actually the new for 2021 S5 Metamorph Compact 7811T. Which is pretty much another iteration of that upscaled design. And it's actually a frame lock this time in the smaller size. And it's pretty much a downsized variation, but I would say actually up-spec'd this time, which is the big change from the G5 Metamorph Mark II. You can actually get these for $178 from Knife Center right now, and it has an M390 blade. Yes, my friend's M390 blade steel. The last knife I featured on here that was a similar variation was kind of a bargain version of this that featured VG10, and instead of it having a titanium frame lock, it actually had an aluminum handle with a liner lock setup. So with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. All right, guys, now before I pick this up, customary wristwatch check here. I got my titanium ProMaster from Citizen. This is a newer watch also for 2021. Let me give it a quick little dust off here for you. But the reason that I chose this is actually because of that texturing, as you can see on the dial and the bezel insert. Also the fact that it's titanium and very angular. Bam, you can see that cross hatch design for the grip definitely carries over. And I mean, it's just a very handsome situation there. And then even if I would take my lumen top here, my FW AA, it actually is titanium, and then again has a very similar kind of cross hatch feature on there. So very cool. It obviously fits in within this titanium kind of carry here. So very nice from that standpoint, and I did want to just share that with you guys very quickly. But next, let's just quickly get this guy out here, which is for about 60 bucks you can get this piece. And at the time, this thing, I mean, it still is a steel, real steel, but you can see very similar. They did a great job color matching that aluminum to have that titanium look to it. Very, very close. I mean, I can tell the difference by my eye, but you can see here, one of the big differences is going to be liner lock versus the frame lock. And some people might think that that liner lock is going to give you, of course, a more symmetrical design in terms of the show side versus the lock side. And then in terms of the blade steel, you can see here VG10 versus M390, but a same designer, slightly different kind of. I actually prefer the more simple blade signature right here, a smaller billboard, of course, versus this, which wasn't really bad to have it spelled out as RealSteel, but you're still getting the very nice pen-like pocket clip, which is great. This one was just a lot cheaper, and I'd say one of the downsides was the semi-sharp jimping that they put there on the liner. But again, this one had great action from that standpoint, and you're getting it again here. And honestly, I want to say that might have been one of the things that I mentioned was, man, they should really do a premium version in this size. And absolutely this thing is. I really, really enjoy this one. So let's go down some of the specs on here. M390 blade steel. It has that great drop point blade, flat ground, satin finished, quite sharp out of box. The titanium is contoured and textured, you can see, so no boring lines on this one. This is very, very handsome, really at every angle. You can see great attention to detail there. In terms of the finishing, every edge is really, inspected and taken and just really taken care of. And then you can also see quite a bit of milling on the inner portions here for weight savings, which is very, very impressive. Very nice, not just on the show side, but even on the lock side. Not on the lock itself, but pocketed here, and then a bit of pocketing back here. So very, very nice. And then even the back spacer has a nice little contouring as well as a little pin there if you want to put a lanyard on this piece. Now, in terms of the dimensions, guys, this is right about perfect EDC size for me, what I consider. So this is going to be 7.08 inches in total length, 3.07 blade length. Closed length is going to be just over 4 inches at 4.17 inches, and then the weight right about 3 ounces. So a little bit heavier than the aluminum version, but it definitely feels quite nice and quite balanced, which I can absolutely appreciate. Different grasps there, you can see, nice and easy to lock in. You can still get a nice 4-finger grasp on there, regardless of the type of cuts you're doing, but very good jimping. You can see, I mean, almost like luxurious jimping. Let me get it to focus there. Look at that. Really beautiful and quite easy to lock in from that perspective. So very nice. In-hand ergonomics are just fantastic, guys. Smaller, but that 4-finger grip again is great. And then you do get the jimping, which adds extra security. In terms of the action, very smooth, fast open and close. You can see if I just move this lock over, that thing falls very nicely. It's still a small blade though, so it's not going to be super fall shutty. You're gonna have to give it a couple shakes, but once you move that really just lays really wonderfully. And you can see great centering there on the blade. Very nice. And as having opened this, you do have the internal stop pin, which also helps get everything aligned really, really well. This thing is just well engineered. I mean, and it's very, very handsome. I gotta say, this is like, eye candy. It's very nice, as well as actually feeling good in the hand, and then also having a very versatile blade shape, and being a cutting tool, it's also really great. So I can appreciate that. And then in terms of the action, guys, again, the flipper geometry on this thing is outstanding. It's going to be one of the most versatile layouts, at least for my hands. And yes, I've had quite a few front flippers on the channel and in my collection, and a lot of them typically require very particular opening. This one, I can just open so many different ways. Sometimes my hands might get in the way. I can even do a slow roll, which is nice because I can still have positive control over the blade, whether it be negotiating that initial detent to flip it, or if I'm going to kind of give it a slow roll kind of deal, I can also do that, which is nice, especially if you're in public and you don't want to scare people off or anything like that. So really great from that standpoint. I mean, I just can't get over how just great looking this thing is, even while it's closed. It has this crosshatch, even almost reminds me a little bit of like a Victorinox, right? It's very similar in size there, the A-locks, which is definitely a classic look, and it's nice to have that. So it just, that little just having a little bit of traction there on the grip, I think is such a great touch. So I'm really excited about that. I'm just surprised more companies don't do that, just adding a little bit of grip texture there, especially with this type of finer kind of sand or bead blasted finish. Having this on there, it just gives you so much more purchase while you're holding the knife, especially if it's warm and you might get sweaty palms or anything like that. And then of course In pocket, guys, it's going to lay very flat, going to be very unobtrusive from that standpoint. Again, you have this great pen-like deep carry pocket clip, and that means you can put it in your pocket, and it's still low profile there. I mean, you can even put this on a shirt pocket, like a breast pocket, and again, it's going to have a very pen-like clip, so you're not necessarily going to even realize that it's a knife. And it's, you know, I think it has the silhouette to where it still hides pretty well within that front breast pocket if you were to do that, guys. In terms of model variants, there are so many different variations of this particular knife, from RealSteel being the Metamorph. Just there's a whole lot of them, you know, with different sizes, but this S5 Metamorph Compact is you know, it's my favorite one. And then of course you can get the aluminum handled kind of liner lock version, pull it back on the screen for less, a lot less. But this one isn't like a bad deal at all at 178 versus about 60 bucks. So yes, you could get multiples if you really wanted to. I don't know why you'd need to. VG10 is still a nice blade steel, and it's going to be very easy to sharpen, of course. But it's, you know, it's a blade steel of yesteryear. It's nothing really fancy to write home about. It makes it competitive with something like a Delica, but then you go ahead and you move into this more premium bad boy here with the M390, which is fantastic. Just beautiful, one of my favorite steels, and it just steps it up a notch, right? Pretty much M390 blade, front flipper, titanium frame lock with extensive milling and a deep carry pocket clip. I mean, it's what most people will describe as, you know, a great knife without even covering aesthetics, which I think, again, aesthetically, this thing is super handsome. There's also another M390 equipped model that is a liner lock that's Blade HQ exclusive, that essentially is going to look very similar to this knife, except it's going to be carbon fiber instead of these milled aluminum and coated scales here. It would be carbon fiber, and then you would have blued hardware. So there's that, and then I think there's also another version that also it has micarta handles, but of course, again, would be a liner lock. So for me though, having this frame lock with the great milling and everything is just fantastic, and it just fits kind of my carry aesthetic in terms of what I like to keep in pocket. Again, you compare it to the flashlight, it has a great similar patterning there, great similar finish, and then you got something like, you know, a mechanical titanium dive watch, where you're going to have also great utility, and then some great tactile intersection there with some of the functionality, and just not just visually, but even just when you touch and interact with things. Really nice. So if you haven't seen the full review for this watch, definitely check it out on the channel. Comparable models, guys, closest thing would be that Kaiser Lundquist Feist. Very similar in price, but it's only going to be using S35 VN. I hate to say only S35 because S35 is a great steel, and you'll find it in very expensive knives, to include Chris Reeves Sebenzas. So I'm not trying to talk down on S35 at all. I think S45 is kind of the new sexy steel from that end of the house, but I am actually still a lover and supporter of M390, and of course some of its variations that come from a couple of other manufacturers where they just have a very similar compound layout, you know, your 20 CVs and whatnot, and CTS what is that, 204p, I believe. Go ahead and correct me in the comments below. But this thing is just a ball to have in hand, and it's just, it does its job. It has, you know, of course, the hardened steel lock face there. You also do get, as you can see, a nice little ceramic ball bearing. You're also getting these great, the bearings in here are ball bearings, ceramic ball bearings, washers around the pivots, which works great. This thing just has a wonderful balance of form and function, and now it's in a fully modern and very affordable package. I mean, this thing is stellar at 178. I'm just blown away that you can get something like this. Sure, it'd be nice if it was made in the US, but I have to say, this thing, I don't know if being made in the US would have made it any nicer in terms of the execution. It just would have made me feel a little bit better about it, just because, you know, if it's made here, of course I do support local, and I own quite a few US made knives. Typically they're a lot more expensive, and the ones that aren't a lot more expensive are just more mainstream with things like Spyderco's or Benchmade, and of course those are being made in much larger batches, so that they, you know, they tend to be a simpler cutting tool. And then I end up spending a lot of money kind of customizing them. Here, this is just a great everyday carry, gentleman's folder, very modern, very handsome, and just absolutely everything you need, guys. M390, titanium frame lock, contoured, pocketed, you know, steel lock bar insert, over travel stop there, so you can't, you know, bend this thing out too far. Just, it has everything you need, so very, very impressed with this one. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I know not everybody watches the channel for knives. Most people watch them for watches, so if you're a watch fan, I tell you what, this is a great knife to open boxes with, in terms of, you know, in your collection as you get more watches delivered to your door. This is a great, great knife, and it's just very svelte, sleek, and very handsome. I mean, this thing is just screaming for, you know, that Instagram kind of shot there. You can see it, I can see it. There we go. I mean, this is just Instagram waiting to happen there, guys. So with all that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked the video, please do hit like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.